Most people think respect is something you earn by being powerful, successful, or loud enough to be noticed. But here's the truth. Respect doesn't come from dominance, it comes from depth. The kind of depth that makes people lean in when you speak, not because you're forcing them to listen, but because they want to. I want to share 5 psychological secrets that can quietly, powerfully shift the way people see you, and more importantly, how you see yourself. The first secret: authenticity. When you stop performing and start showing up as you, not the curated version, not the polished mask, but the raw, real human underneath, something magical happens. People feel safe around you. They relax. Psychology shows that authenticity triggers a mirror response in others. It invites them to be real too. And in a world built on filters and facades, being genuine is revolutionary. The second secret: emotional self-awareness. Respect isn't born from controlling others, it's born from mastering your own inner world. When you can name your emotions instead of being ruled by them, you project calm. You become that steady presence everyone subconsciously looks for in a storm. People trust those who understand themselves. The third secret: confidence rooted in vulnerability. This might sound paradoxical, but the most respected people aren't the ones pretending to be bulletproof. They're the ones who can say, "I don't know," or "I was wrong," without losing their center. Psychology calls this secure vulnerability. It tells others you're confident enough not to hide behind armor. That's rare, and rare earns respect. The fourth secret: boundaries. Boundaries are the silent language of self-worth. Every time you say no to something that drains you, you're saying yes to your value. People respect what you respect, especially when it's yourself. Clear boundaries don't push others away, they teach others how to love and honor you correctly. And finally, the fifth secret: integrity. Consistency between your words and actions builds the kind of respect that can't be faked. When you do what you say you'll do, even when no one's watching, people feel it. Integrity has an energy. It's quiet, but it's powerful. It's the heartbeat of trust. Now, here's the thing. These 5 secrets aren't just about gaining respect from others. They're about aligning with your purpose. Because your purpose isn't something you find out there. It's something that emerges when you live from truth, awareness, and integrity. When you start embodying these principles, something shifts. The need for approval fades. The noise quiets, and you begin to walk through the world not trying to prove who you are, but simply being who you are. That's where purpose lives. That's where respect begins. And that's where you become unstoppable. Authenticity is one of the most magnetic traits a person can possess, yet it's also one of the rarest. We live in a world that constantly pressures us to perform, to show up as the version of ourselves that's most likely to be accepted, admired, or approved of. From social media filters to professional facades, we learn to curate who we are instead of simply being who we are. But when we wear masks for too long, something inside us starts to fracture. We lose touch with the part of ourselves that feels alive, spontaneous, and real. Authenticity is about returning to that truth, allowing the inner and outer versions of ourselves to align. Psychology shows that humans are wired to seek connection, but real connection can only occur between 2 authentic selves. When you're pretending, even subtly, you create an invisible barrier between you and others. People may like you, but they won't feel deeply connected to you. Respect, at its core, grows from connection. We respect those who make us feel something honest, people whose presence feels grounded, who speak from their truth rather than from a desire to impress. Authenticity gives off a kind of emotional resonance that others can feel instinctively. It tells them, this person is real, I can trust this. Being authentic doesn't mean spilling every detail of your life or being raw in every moment. It means you're not hiding behind who you think you should be. You speak with congruence. Your words match your values. Your actions reflect your beliefs, and your presence feels whole. Psychological research on congruence and self-determination theory supports this. When our external behavior aligns with our internal values, we experience greater well-being, confidence, and respect from others. As people sense when you're living from your core rather than from a script, that sense of alignment draws them in naturally, without effort or manipulation. Authenticity also requires courage, because it invites the possibility of rejection. When you show up as your real self, you're no longer protected by the image you've built. But paradoxically, that vulnerability is what commands genuine respect. Others may not always agree with you, but they'll admire your willingness to stand in your truth. Think about the people you respect most. They're rarely the ones who conform perfectly to expectations. They're the ones who have a distinct sense of self, who express their values unapologetically while still remaining open-hearted. That balance between self-expression and empathy is what gives authenticity its power. At a psychological level, authenticity also creates coherence within the self. When you no longer have to maintain multiple versions of who you are, your mind relaxes. You gain clarity, emotional stability, and self-trust. And that calm confidence is magnetic. People are drawn to those who aren't constantly seeking validation because it signals inner security. It says, I'm comfortable with who I am. This comfort gives others permission to do the same. Respect isn't forced, it's inspired through that feeling of ease and truthfulness. In essence, authenticity transforms how people experience you. They no longer see a projection, they see a person. And when people feel they can truly see you, they begin to respect you, not for your performance, achievements, or image, but for your presence. Emotional self-awareness is the foundation of inner strength, and it's one of the most overlooked qualities that command respect. At its core, it means having a deep understanding of your own emotional landscape, knowing what you feel, why you feel it, and how those emotions influence your thoughts, decisions, and interactions. People who cultivate emotional self-awareness have a quiet confidence about them. They don't need to control a room to be noticed. Their stability does it for them. In psychology, this is often tied to emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize and regulate emotions in ourselves and others. When you are aware of your emotions, you gain mastery over how you show up in the world, and that mastery naturally earns the respect of those around you. Many people move through life reacting rather than responding. They let emotions like anger, fear, or insecurity dictate their behavior, often without realizing it. But when you're self-aware, you create space between what you feel and how you act. That space is where wisdom lives. It's where composure, empathy, and clarity come from. Imagine someone who gets criticized in a meeting. A person without self-awareness might lash out defensively or shut down completely, but someone with emotional awareness pauses, recognizes the rising frustration, and chooses to respond with curiosity instead of ego. That kind of presence communicates maturity and self-control, qualities that naturally invite respect. Emotional self-awareness also allows you to take responsibility for your own inner state. Instead of blaming others for how you feel, you begin to understand your triggers and patterns. You realize that emotions are signals, not commands. Anger might point to a boundary being crossed. Sadness might reveal an unmet need. Anxiety might indicate uncertainty about control. When you decode these signals rather than react to them, you gain authority over your own experience. People respect those who are accountable for their emotions because it shows strength, discipline, and authenticity. It also builds trust. Others feel safe around you because they know you won't project your chaos onto them. From a psychological standpoint, emotional self-awareness is linked to higher levels of empathy and stronger relationships. When you understand what you're feeling, you become better at understanding what others feel. You can read emotional cues, sense tension, and respond with compassion instead of judgment. That emotional attunement creates a sense of connection that people deeply value. Respect isn't just about admiration, it's about how others feel in your presence. When people feel understood, they automatically hold you in higher regard. Furthermore, emotional self-awareness contributes to better decision-making. Emotions influence every choice we make, whether we admit it or not. Without awareness, we're often ruled by impulses and unconscious fears. With awareness, we gain the ability to think clearly even in emotionally charged moments. Leaders, mentors, and individuals who can remain grounded under pressure are respected not because they're emotionless, but because they know how to navigate their emotions skillfully. They've learned to use feelings as data, not as directives. Developing emotional self-awareness requires honesty and curiosity about yourself. It's not about suppressing emotions, but about understanding them with compassion. When you can sit with discomfort, name your feelings accurately, and act from clarity instead of reaction, you embody emotional maturity. That kind of steadiness is rare, and people instinctively look up to it. Emotional self-awareness radiates a calm authority that doesn't need to be spoken. It's felt. Confidence rooted in vulnerability is one of the most paradoxical yet powerful dynamics in human psychology. We're taught to believe that confidence comes from perfection, being flawless, unshakable, or always in control. But that version of confidence is brittle. It cracks the moment life challenges it. Real confidence is not about never stumbling. It's about trusting yourself enough to be open, honest, and human in every moment. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's emotional transparency. It's the courage to show who you are, even when you can't control the outcome. When you live this way, people sense your strength not because you hide your imperfections, but because you own them with grace. Psychologically, vulnerability creates connection. When you admit uncertainty or acknowledge a mistake, you invite others into your truth. You dissolve the invisible barrier that separates performer from audience. Confidence without vulnerability often feels cold and distant. People might admire you, but they can't connect with you. Vulnerability, on the other hand, humanizes confidence. It transforms it from something intimidating into something inspiring. When someone is willing to say, I don't know, or I need help, while still holding their sense of worth, it sends a signal of deep inner strength. It says, I am not defined by my flaws or failures. That kind of self-assurance draws profound respect because it's authentic and real. Research in social and emotional psychology, particularly studies around authenticity and the pratfall effect, reveals that people actually find others more likable and trustworthy when they show small, genuine imperfections. It reminds us that perfection is not relatable. Vulnerability bridges the gap between people because it expresses humility, and humility is a key ingredient in emotional intelligence. When someone can be humble without being insecure, open without being fragile, they embody a kind of confidence that feels balanced and grounded. It's confidence that isn't built on comparison or ego. It's built on self-acceptance. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you signal that you are comfortable with uncertainty, and that comfort is incredibly powerful. Life is unpredictable, and those who can remain present and open through uncertainty radiate stability. They're not pretending to have it all figured out. They're simply confident that they can navigate whatever arises. People respect that kind of inner steadiness far more than performative strength. It's why the most respected leaders and mentors are often those who admit their struggles, share their learning curves, and speak honestly about their fears while still showing up with courage. Their presence reassures others that it's possible to be brave without being invincible. Vulnerability also deepens empathy. When you allow others to see your emotional truth, they feel safe to reveal theirs. It creates mutual respect because the dynamic shifts from authority to authenticity. You're no longer trying to impress others. You're inviting them into a shared human experience. This makes your confidence feel inclusive rather than exclusive. People naturally gravitate toward those who make them feel seen, not judged. Vulnerability does that. It softens the space between people and builds genuine respect from the ground up. True confidence is not about always standing tall, it's about standing honest. It's knowing that your worth isn't diminished by your flaws, and that your courage to be seen as you are speaks louder than any illusion of perfection ever could. Boundaries are one of the purest expressions of self-respect, and understanding how to set and maintain them is essential to earning the respect of others. A boundary is not a wall to keep people out, it's a framework that defines how you allow others to treat you, how you treat yourself, and where your energy goes. It is the invisible line that protects your peace, your time, and your emotional well-being. In psychology, boundaries are linked to self-worth because they communicate what you believe you deserve. When you hold strong boundaries, you send a powerful message to the world: I value myself. People notice that. They may not always like it, but they respect it. Many people struggle with boundaries because they confuse them with rejection or selfishness. They fear that saying no might make them seem cold or uncaring. But in truth, the inability to say no often leads to resentment, burnout, and disconnection. Healthy boundaries are an act of honesty. They make relationships clearer and cleaner. When you say yes to everything and everyone, you dilute your energy and weaken your sense of identity. Boundaries, on the other hand, sharpen your presence. They show others that your time and emotions are not up for negotiation. That kind of clarity earns respect because it demonstrates self-awareness and discipline, two traits deeply associated with maturity. Psychologically, boundaries are essential for emotional regulation. When you know where your responsibility ends and another person's begins, you protect yourself from emotional entanglement. You stop taking on what isn't yours to carry. That separation allows you to respond to life rather than react to it. People who have clear boundaries radiate calmness because they're not constantly trying to manage others' emotions or please everyone around them. They act from choice, not obligation. This emotional autonomy is magnetic. Others can sense that your peace isn't easily disturbed, and they instinctively adjust their behavior around you. Respect grows in relationships where boundaries exist. Without them, connections become imbalanced. One person gives too much, the other takes too much, and both end up frustrated. Boundaries ensure that interactions remain mutual and sustainable. They teach others how to engage with you in a way that honors both sides. In fact, setting boundaries often helps others feel safer because they know where they stand. It creates predictability, consistency, and emotional honesty, which are all conditions that nurture respect. Boundaries also build trust within yourself. Every time you uphold a boundary, you strengthen the belief that you can protect and prioritize your needs. This self-trust becomes the root of confidence. When people see you honoring your own standards, whether it's leaving a conversation that feels toxic, taking time for yourself, or saying no without guilt, they begin to respect your integrity. They know your word has weight. The psychology of boundaries also ties into authenticity. You cannot be authentic if you're constantly betraying your needs to maintain approval. Boundaries make authenticity possible because they free you from the pressure to perform. They allow you to engage with others from a place of truth rather than fear. And while some may initially resist your boundaries, those who value real connection will respect you more for them. Boundaries are not about control, they are about alignment. When you stand firmly in what is true for you, you invite the world to meet you there, not across the line, but to walk beside you in mutual respect. Integrity is the quiet force that shapes character and commands deep, lasting respect. It's not about grand gestures or public displays of morality. It's about the small, consistent choices made when no one is watching. Integrity means alignment between what you say, what you do, and what you believe. It's the psychological and moral glue that holds your identity together, allowing others to trust you fully. People instinctively respect those whose actions match their words because it signals reliability, authenticity, and strength of character. In a world where promises are easily broken and appearances often take precedence over principles, integrity stands out as something rare and powerful. From a psychological perspective, integrity builds credibility. Every interaction, no matter how minor, adds to or subtracts from the trust others have in you. When your behavior is consistent, people don't have to second-guess your intentions. They know what to expect. Predictability creates safety, and safety fosters respect. Integrity also has an internal component. It strengthens self-respect. When you live in alignment with your values, you experience a sense of coherence and peace within yourself. You no longer waste energy rationalizing contradictions or maintaining facades. That inner congruence radiates outward and becomes part of your presence. People can sense when someone's integrity is genuine because it feels steady and grounded. Integrity also means honoring commitments, both big and small. It's easy to talk about values when the stakes are low, but integrity is tested when keeping your word is inconvenient, uncomfortable, or costly. Those moments reveal who you truly are. When you follow through on your promises even when it's difficult, you demonstrate self-discipline and accountability, qualities that naturally invite respect. Psychology identifies this consistency as a key factor in trust formation. Humans are wired to detect inconsistency. And when they encounter someone whose behavior aligns over time, their nervous systems relax. They feel safe to rely on that person. Another essential aspect of integrity is honesty, not only with others, but with yourself. It requires a willingness to confront your own motives and admit when you've fallen short. People with integrity don't pretend to be perfect. They take responsibility for their mistakes and learn from them. This humility makes them approachable rather than rigid. Paradoxically, acknowledging faults often strengthens others' respect because it shows courage and self-awareness. Integrity without honesty becomes performance. It loses its essence. Real integrity is not about image management, but about inner alignment. Integrity also extends to how you treat others when they can't offer you anything in return. The way you handle moments of power, how you speak to a stranger, how you respond to criticism, how you behave when no one will find out, reveals the depth of your character. These quiet moments define your reputation far more than your achievements ever could. Respect earned through integrity lasts because it's not built on charm or manipulation, it's built on truth. Ultimately, integrity cultivates trust that endures. It creates an unshakable foundation in relationships, leadership, and personal growth. When people see that you stand by your principles, even when it costs you something, they know your respect for yourself is real, and that inspires them to respect you in return.